Join me right now is two-time PFL featherweight world champion, Lance Palmer. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you multitasking, driving and doing the interview.
Dude, honestly, I do this more often than not, to be honest. So I'm actually pretty good at it because it's not like texting and driving. Like I can keep my eyes on the road and have a good conversation. So, trying to, like we were talking about a second ago, it's like we have to show up way earlier than the fight. So all day today, I was basically packing my truck up and basically moving out of my house into this, situation where we're going to be moving in Tuesday to the hotel and staying there, for 17 days. Like I'm not going to see my wife and daughter and be home until after my fight. I'm going to try and hightail it home by April 24th after my fight. But yeah, I mean, so I can multitask a little bit here and there. So it takes up some of my time too because this is an 8-hour drive for me. So it'll knock a little bit out of it.
No doubt, man. And yeah, before we get into all the PFL talk, let's talk about fatherhood, man. Your daughter was born earlier this year. What has becoming a parent done to you?
Man, it's really awesome because it's not anything, unless you're a parent, it's not anything you can really explain to somebody. Because before I was a dad, I would hear people say like, man, it's an unexplainable feeling. You just have like this overcoming of emotions when you see your son or daughter born for the first time, and like a sense of protection for them just instantly without even knowing them. Like you just know that they're yours and that you're there to protect them and raise them, and it's like a natural feeling. And I didn't really, like, I guess you don't know what that is until it happens to you. So once that happened to me in the hospital, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like I already have pretty bad road rage when it comes to like stupid drivers and people on the road. But once you have the baby in a car seat behind you, you're like, you literally want to get out and kill people when they do stupid stuff on the road. You're like, I got a baby in here, dude. Learn how to drive. It's just like little things like that. They trigger me a little bit more now, and just a little bit more aware of enjoying life and enjoying the moment, especially now because I'm going to be gone for, you know, um, basically 20 days because I had to head out to Jersey and get a couple training days in with my coaches before I go into quarantine. But it's being a father is definitely, it's so wild. I mean, my daughter's only 7 weeks old, so she's still real little, but just holding her and like seeing her reactions and seeing her facial expressions and just watching her progress over the last couple weeks is insane how fast they really become alert. And it really makes you slow your mind down a little bit, because I'm a person that's always on the go. I'm always doing the next thing, trying to keep my mind busy, and I'm always on the road also, and training and teammates fights that are coming up and stuff like that. It kind of made me take a step back and say, man, I got to enjoy every minute of this, because everybody says, oh, they grow so quick, enjoy it, but you don't realize it until you go out of town for a week for training and you're home on the weekend and she grows a little bit, or she's more alert and she hears your voice and she actually looks for you when she hears your voice. Like little things like that, or it's stuff that kind of hits you way harder than before you were a parent. You don't really understand it.
Yeah, my daughter's about to turn 10. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, wow.
And just watching them evolve into the person they are, even at 10 years old, it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
You don't know yet, but it's coming.
I believe it, man. I have a couple of nieces and nephews. My oldest nephew is 11 right now, and my oldest niece is 7. And like I can have like a full-on adult conversation with both of them. And I mean, it's crazy how smart kids are. Like when you're a kid and you're talking to your parents, you don't really realize that you're having a full conversation with your parents at that young of an age, where you're just that cognitive. And to see it out of my nieces and nephew, I'm kind of like, man, it's crazy because she's gonna get that way so fast. Like even like 4-year-olds. Like I have a 4-year-old niece, and she's lives in town by my house with me, and she's she's like, where's the baby? Where's the, like, she always asks about the baby. And it's crazy, like, a kid that young just is so cognitive to, like, think about their cousin like that and be so excited about holding their baby cousin. And it's really strange to me because you don't think of kids being, like, everybody's like, oh, man, that kid's really smart. But you don't think about it until it's your own family and you really can see it from the inside. Like you see it instead of like on the outside, you can see other people's kids, and they're like, oh yeah, she's really smart, or he's really smart, or he's really good at this or that. You're like, how do you know? The kid's so young. But then when you're around them every day, or their family members, and you get to see the progression, you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's a wild, wild experience, and you just gotta just hold on, man, while you can and do your best. I think that's the only thing in your mind that should be in your mind is just doing your best. Now, the 2021 season is coming up, man, and when did you actually get back into like fight mode training?
Um, we didn't know dates for anything, but it was in January, I would say, is when I really started. I started working out locally. Like Cody Garbrandt's uncle only lives like an hour and a half from Columbus, and I would work with him once or twice a week, and then I would work with a kid named Dante Leon. He's a really high level jiu-jitsu practitioner, competes at the highest level of jiu-jitsu, and he's a little bigger than me, but he's got great technique and he's a great guy to roll with. Um, so that was kind of the two things I worked on a lot was my jujitsu and worked on my boxing and just staying sharp on the mitts and stuff like that. But I would say January probably. It gave me plenty of time, and once I actually had a fight date set, I kind of just rolled with it. I mean, I was in February 13th. My daughter was born, and February 20 something was 8 weeks out. So I was in a position where I was like, I already felt like I was in decent shape. I have pretty much, I mean, my brother was a high level wrestler also. So he would come over and we'd get after it in the basement on the mats, and I would hit my hard treadmill workouts and push myself. And my strength conditioning coach, Sam Calavita at the training lab, he sends a lot of my stuff remotely. So I was still pushing pretty hard and doing things outside of it. It was more of, just a maintenance stage at that point, just waiting for a date.
For sure. Now you got a date, you got an opponent. The first fight is Bubba Jenkins, someone that you're familiar with. What are your thoughts on him as a mixed martial artist?
As a mixed martial artist, from what I've seen, I feel like I've evolved my game more than he's evolved his overall game. Obviously, I know he's a great athlete because I've watched him compete for years in the wrestling realm of things. I know a couple people that have fought him, and a couple guys, Georgie Karakanyan fought him, and I fought Georgie my 8th fight of my career, and we had a really good fight. He ended up catching me in a guillotine, and that was my first loss of my career. But it was at the end of the 3rd round, and I feel like we had a really back and forth fight going at the time. And since then, I've trained with Georgie, and he's always been really honest about my level even at that time, my level of grappling and striking and my power and things of that nature. And I feel that Bubba fought him too and got finished twice by him. And I feel that Bubba is, he's a great athlete, but I don't know. I guess it's yet to be seen whether he can be a great mixed martial artist. But I feel that I have way more tools going into this fight than he does.
You competed against Bubba back in college, if I remember correctly. What do you remember about your interactions with him?
Just very athletic of a wrestler. Mainly takedowns. It was mainly the takedowns. It wasn't like top riding or anything like that, or turning. We wrestled. I believe we actually were on the mat together 3 times. but we actually wrestled a full match twice. I beat him once, he beat me once, and then I injury defaulted once at the Big Tens for 5th and 6th. So I was able to heal up before the NCAA tournament. And obviously, we're talking 2008. So that's like talking about going to a karate tournament when you're like 10. It's like we're both completely different people than we were back then. And as far as MMA goes, MMA and wrestling, you know, they're completely different things. Like you can be a great wrestler and not have the skills and the ability or the IQ maybe at the time to be a great, well-rounded MMA fighter. And I went through all those stages, and I don't feel like I'm a veteran by any means, but I do feel like I've trained with a lot of the best guys in the world, a lot of the best coaches in the world. I've earned my stripes. I've been around a long time, and I feel like, you know, I've always put my mind first over my ego of being willing to learn things that I don't know and not being afraid to get caught, you know, in the gym in submissions or like put myself in bad position and try to fight out of it. I feel like that all just comes with the ego thing. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, I know Bubba really well, but from an MMA aspect of it, I don't know how he's been training all these years. Like, I don't know how hard he's been training all these years and how much he's really learned or how much he really uses. But when I watched 2 of his last fights, and I just feel that my skill set is going to be greater than his. But from a wrestling aspect, yeah, he was an amazing wrestler. He was a national champ at one point, national finalist at one point also. Very good. I mean, I've spent time with Bubba at Penn State visiting for Ohio State versus Penn State football game. Like, me and Bubba know each other really well. I don't know what he tells people in the media or whatever, but we know each other pretty well from a wrestling aspect of it. So it'll be interesting. I think we're both excited to get in there and fight and see whose skills are better, because on the wrestling end of it, you know, I pretty much believe that we're 1-1, because I don't think an injury default really counts as a win. But if he wants that one, he can have it. I'm not really worried about it. That was like 13 years ago or something. So, but yeah, Bubba's a good guy. I don't really let the trash talk and the chatter get to me too much, just because I know Bubba. I know he's a good person. I know he's a good guy. It's just, he's selling himself in the fight. That's it.
For sure. Now, when you get to Jersey and start that camp, who's there in the trenches with you?
Well, Frankie was there. Eddie Alvarez, he's actually fighting next weekend for ONE FC. So, Eddie and Frankie, those guys they're awesome, man. Those two are like, it's kind of like you go to a place, like when I went to Alpha Male when I first started fighting, and Uriah was the main, like, he was the veteran at that time, right? And that's what I felt like when I went to Jersey in 2019. I'm like, man, you got Eddie, you got Frankie, we had Marlon Marias at the time, and Edson had just moved to Florida. And then you got Frankie Perez, who's fought forever. I mean, you got Corey Anderson, who was a wrestling background. He's in Bellator now. Like, we have a lot of good guys out there, and Frankie and Eddie were like, I felt like they were like big brothers to me. They were excited that I was there to train. It's not a big group of people, so it's not like anybody can just come out there and train. Like, I talked to Mark Henry for a while, and he said he thought that I'd be a good fit there, and I wanted to learn from him, and I felt that he could elevate my boxing game and just my striking in general, and all those guys have been a huge help, and I'm just really happy that they kind of took me under their wing and let me come and train with them, because they're not just an open gym. They don't just let anybody come out there and train.
Yeah, Mark Henry, he's a unique character in this industry, because it almost seems like he's a movie character, you know, like a guy that doesn't he owns a pizza shop, he coaches the best fighters in the world in his basement. Like, is it kind of weird sometimes going and training with him because of that reason? It's not like in a big gym and you're focused, with all this attention.
Honestly, it's awesome because it brings back the grittiness of me drilling wrestling in my basement growing up with my brother. Like we would go down there, and my dad had notebooks of writings of all techniques we would learn at wrestling camps, and we would go down there in the summer. We'd go down like twice a week, do like 30 minutes to an hour of drilling down there, and it was like a fully matted basement, like the walls and the floor was matted, and we'd go and we drill and we did our lifts down there. Like Mark's place reminds me of that. It brings me back to that of like, you know, you're drilling, you're in the basement, you know, you're not at some like big expensive gym, like trying to be a cool guy in front of people, hitting mitts, trying to look flashy. Like you're in the trenches, you're grinding. Mark's working with you one on one. Like it's the stuff that like people don't see. You know what I mean? Like nobody can just go down there and watch that. That's what's cool about it. You're like you're doing all this stuff away from the crowd. You're doing it alone. You're doing the things that people don't see every day. And obviously, Mark is a great guy, and he's super smart about boxing and the striking aspect of MMA. And he always loves working with wrestlers for some reason. He says it all the time, and I still don't know why, but because he's like, I don't want to teach a wrestler to strike. He's like, wrestling is your best thing. I want you to wrestle, but I want you to be able to do the best you can at setting up your shots with your strikes. And that's what really makes a dangerous striker out of a wrestler is being able to set up both things. And that's that. I think that's what he loves about it. But he is, man. Mark's an awesome guy. He's a really good guy. He'd do anything for you. And that's the thing. Is like he always says, home team, home team. Like when you're in the group and you're one of the guys, like you're in for life. Your family.
So now, you know, the fight with Bubba Jenkins, you got wrestler versus wrestler turned mixed martial artist. How do you see yourself taking him out?
Honestly, when I think about the fight, I know the fight can go anywhere because I know that I can be a threat if he shoots on me. Obviously defending the shot, like if we're in a wrestling scenario, but I feel like my grappling from defending a shot is going to win that position, and I feel that my conditioning, if we have to go into rounds 2 and 3, I feel like that's where I excel, and I feel like that's not where he excels so much. Um, and I've been in fights with guys. I fought a guy in July of 2019 he had a ton of first round finishes. He was like 33-1. Mark was actually really nervous about me fighting him because he threw a lot of flashy like spin kicks and a lot of just flashy stuff. But every time I watched his fights where they'd go into the second round, he was literally not. He was literally half the fighter he was in the first. And so I knew once I got through the first round, I literally weathered the storm, go out there, pressure him a little bit, take him down, beat him up on the ground. And then second round, he slowed down a lot. I could see his strikes coming before they even left his body. And then the third round, he wanted to be out of there. And I ended up getting the TKO finish on that guy. And I just feel like my cardio excels as the rounds go on. Whereas, not only Bubba, but most people that I fight, their cardio decelerates as they go on. So I feel like that's going to be a big advantage in this fight. Just the aspect of me being able to push a pace. And I mean, I know he's athletic. I know he was a great wrestler. I know he's fast. He has the skill set to get takedowns, but I don't feel that he has power to hurt me on my feet from what I've watched of his fights. And I feel like on the ground, I feel that I could submit him, and I feel that I have, I feel that I have black belt level jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm a brown belt technically, but I feel that my skill set is black belt level for MMA. So I don't know. I feel really confident in it, but I say this every time I fight somebody. I never look past anyone. Um, I never look past anyone. Also, never underestimate or overestimate anyone. I I never myself better every time I fight, and every time I'm in the gym, I'm there to get better. So I never discredit anybody's skill set, but I never think so much about it to where I haven't done enough or, something like that to win the fight. I feel that I've done all the right things for this fight so far, and I feel like my skill set is going to be too much for him when it comes down to it.
PFL in the last, let's say, 6 months or so, they've been adding names, known names, established names to the roster, featherweight division, lightweight division, welterweight, heavyweight. What are the obstacles you believe those guys are going to face, and are they in for a rude awakening when they step into that cage with the guys that you faced before?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into that. I guess it's like a double-ended question in a way for me, because I know my skill set and I know that I can compete with the top 5 guys in the UFC and in Bellator and whatever other organization people want to consider the best. But when it comes down to PFL, it's just a different structure. If you win, you're fighting again. If you win, you're fighting again. You win, you're fighting 5 times in less than a year. Most of these guys maybe fight 3 times in a 12-month period. So the biggest part of it is the grind. And it just takes me back to my wrestling days of being able to grind and, wrestling 6 and 7 matches in one day and things like that. Like, a lot of people are, mentally maybe not cut out for all the stress that goes on of thinking about multiple opponents and things like that. But you got to take it one fight at a time. I think most of the veterans and people that they have signed, like Pettis and Verdum and those guys, like, they've been in the sport long enough. Pettis, I think he was pretty active in Taekwondo competing before he started fighting. I don't know for sure, but he's a competitor. He's a true competitor. He's UFC champ, WEC champ. I feel like he's knowledgeable enough and smart enough to make the right choices when it comes to, how to train for these fights. And also this year, though, we're not doing 2 fights in one night. So that's something that they're not going to get to experience like I did twice in a row. So I don't know. I feel like the new guys in the divisions aren't going to get to experience the true meaning of the PFL, which was fight twice, win twice, and move on to the finals. And that was I felt like that was the biggest seller of PFL, was kind of doing the old Pride style, and they're getting away from that this year. So I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but we'll see how it goes.
For sure, man. April 23rd, you step back into that cage. Appreciate the time, Lance, and thanks, man. You did a great job. That was a long one.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Hey, I told you at the beginning, I got time.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word you fling.